Now, this weekend, IFP Member of Parliament Mario Ambrosini, who recently tabled legislation to decriminalise the medical use of cannabis, sadly lost his fight against stage 4 lung cancer. Now, with Ambrosini's bill still being reviewed, we put this debate back on the table today. Should marijuana be legalised in South Africa or not? And if the bill does get passed, what will the benefits or disadvantages of this be? We're joined today by two organisations who are for and against the legalisation of the drug. But before we talk to both parties, let's remember Mario Ambrosini's impassioned parliamentary plea to President Jacob Zuma, asking him to decriminalise the medical use of marijuana.
We need to focus our government attention to develop new strategies to deal with cancer. There are treatments for cancer. We have made them illegal. We have created in this country, as in other countries, a legal framework in which only that which has been proven with private money to be effective and safe can be administered to patients.
Well, we are joined now by Mamazane Mapanga from the Concerned Young People of South Africa and William Wallace from Below the Line, the lobby group, to talk about the issue. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, guys.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting us as well.
Good morning,
Mamazane, you guys are totally against the legalisation of it, even for medical use.
Sure.
We spoke to Below the Line and some lawyers about the processes and so forth some weeks back. You say you don't agree.
Yes.
Why not?
We totally disagree because as an organization, we are dealing with young people that we see day in and day out suffering from dagga. They are university dropouts, they are school dropouts, they've even lost their jobs because of the outcome of what dagga has brought about in their lives. Many of them come with different, for example, diseases. Like if you can come now to our center, they become disabled, they lose their minds, they can't even use their logics anymore. They totally, their future is ruined because of marijuana, because of dagga. They can't even think at school. Even if we try to take them to schools, they can't even think, they can't even study. Basically, they've lost everything because dagga has affected them.
William, you guys are obviously taking the opposite view. What are your views on what Mamazane just said?
I think that we need to first and foremost keep in mind that the symptoms of dagga as we know it today are a result of prohibition. We're not sitting in an environment locally where we see legalization. We know that in countries that have legalized or decriminalized, such as Portugal, Switzerland and the Netherlands, we have rates that are almost half that of countries such as the US. And I think in all fairness, if we are going to start simply blaming everyone's faults and vices on dagga, we then also need to accredit their successes. The last 3 presidents of the US of America all used cannabis recreationally. Even Barack Obama, in his memoirs, has very specifically categorized how significant it was to him as a youth and how well known he was for smoking cannabis. So we know that, yes, there are situations where dagga may not agree with people, but I think we draw with very broad brushstrokes when we start saying it disables people, it drives them out of school. I think we should be looking at socio-economic reasons for the outcomes that lead to these situations, as well as dagga use by the youth.
You were saying a little bit earlier that people become disabled and they drop out of school. And so what's the methodology that you're using when you say this?
I'm using it because, sir, you know, he can say whatever he wants to say. But as I've said, we have helped about 2,000 young people that've got this problem. So no matter what he's trying...
Is it only dagga, marijuana?
It is dagga. Dagga. So that is why, as an organization, no matter what other people want to say, but we as young people of South Africa, we don't want dagga whatsoever. We want to better our future. And using dagga is not there to make us better people.
Let's talk about the case. We can talk about sugar. We can talk about a whole lot of other stuff that have even worse effects on humanity. I want to ask you about, in this specific case, when we talk about Mr. Mario Ambrosini, the Member of Parliament.
Yes.
Do you really think the drug should not be made available to those suffering from cancer and other illnesses?
It should not. My mom is suffering from cervical cancer. Dagga didn't help her, but the chemotherapy, that's what helped her.
Did she try the dagga?
She did try, but it didn't help.
What do you say to that, William?
I think that's a fair comment. No one is saying that dagga is a silver bullet, that it will cure all ailments.
Yeah.
What we have seen is we have seen promising lab results with rats and that, where we have seen reductions in cancer tumour growth. And also, you know, it's a question of application of the dagga. What are the properties we want to isolate and apply? But certainly it is by no means a silver bullet, and no one is saying that. What we are merely saying is that when you are in that situation, you should be afforded the opportunity to make those life decisions yourself. And we know that there are medicinal properties for dagga. We've seen pharmaceutical products that are now registered in the UK, and we know that the US government itself holds a patent on medical marijuana, not a synthetic form of it, the physical plant itself.
In the end, Mamazana,
Yes.
we're talking about a plant that grows naturally, not about a chemical
Yes.
that's created by man.
Yes, I understand.
Also, if you look at the trials that have gone around the world,
Yes.
it's legal in quite a few states in the US and so forth. What do you say to that?
You know what? To conclude this, the legalization of dagga is a no to our country. Look at the rate of rape in our country because of people that
But
are
you can't say dagga makes people
that
get
are under
rape
the
them.
influence of dagga. Look at criminality because of the people
No.
that take dagga and then end up committing those crimes.
I don't think,
Finish
William,
and clear.
William, I think that would be a very uninformed view if you say that dagga causes people to rape and people to be involved in crime.
Sir,
I would rather say that alcohol that's freely available out there makes people much more aggressive than
I'm
dagga.
talking from experience.
In what experience then?
I've got so many boys, as I've said.
No, that's a generalization.
It's fine.
What experience?
It's fine. About 2,000 of them that have been
One
involved.
specific case.
That have been involved with dagga. They come to us and testify that because of dagga, this and this is what I've done. Those people have been involved in the worst criminal
But
cases.
surely you can't
Why?
blame. Surely you can't blame.
It is
you
a
can't
drug.
blame. It's a drug, but so is sugar. Sugar is a drug. More people on the planet today are addicted to sugar and kills more people.
Sugar is more healthier, but dagga is a no. It should
William,
not
your
be
response.
legalized.
William, your response. Please.
I think Ms. Mapanga is very much a symptom of the problem of prohibition as well. Yes, we need to have a sensible discussion regarding the legalization of dagga. We need to face this inevitability. But when people are on opposite ends of the table throwing big stones and serious allegations like this, it does not help your discussion. We want to engage with you. We want the same thing. We want to lower youth use. But we do not believe that it is helping the youth by simply arresting them and throwing them in jail. Remember, it is not cannabis that is criminalized. It is the use of cannabis. And we are criminalizing people. When someone comes to you, when a young man comes to you and says, I'm having a problem with dagga, do you send him to jail?
We don't send them to
Then you
jail.
already concede that you agree that prohibition is not the answer, Ms.
Because
Mapanga.
our aim is to help them.
As is ours.
It is you helping them by giving them dagga.
No, by not throwing them in prison. By not throwing them in
This is what I
prison.
want to tell you. There's so many women in Durban that are crying tears because from these children that are using dagga, they've sold everything, every furniture in their houses,
I think you're talking
including
about
beds,
if we can come back to order.
Yes.
I don't think that it's proven in fact that dagga makes people aggressive.
It is proven.
It's
Come
actually
to
the
our
opposite.
Center.
It's actually
Come
the opposite.
to my center.
What
it
about
has maybe
alcohol?
helped you.
What are your views on alcohol?
It's the same. Dagga and alcohol is
So
the
you
same.
want dagga banned, alcohol banned?
Both.
What about sugar? It kills more people than dagga.
Sugar is healthier. Take coffee without sugar and you tell me what is the taste.
No, but sugar kills more people than dagga.
It doesn't matter. But the fact,
does.
the fact that dagga is a drug, I'm saying capital N-O, it must
Okay.
never
What
be
about
legalized.
the benefits? It's such a useful plant.
There are no benefits.
There
are
William,
no benefits.
You're getting a little bit irate, my dear.
Ms.
Let's
Mapanga,
talk about the benefits, and then you respond to those benefits.
I think let's begin with the one-word solution, Google. I think we cannot simply claim ignorance in the 21st century. We are well aware that there are industrial benefits, medical benefits. We know that the very foundations of our country are built on cannabis. The very sails that brought civilization legalization across the country were made from cannabis. We know that people have been using cannabis medicinally for many years, and I also get the feeling that you're not even familiar with the history of why cannabis was prohibited. It was prohibited firstly and mostly on racial grounds, both in South Africa and in America. If we look at it, we know that it is a non-toxic plant, is impossible to overdose, and you also make the assumption that I am not aware of the harms of marijuana or drugs as a whole. I was raised by parents who are addicts. No, give me a chance. You've had a nice rant. I have been raised by parents who are both addicts of everything from tobacco and alcohol to crack and buttons, as you would know as mandrax. And I promise you, the first thing that was pawned from our house was for alcohol. Each and every time. But I cannot see how you can propose that we continue to assist the youth of South Africa by imprisoning them. Yes, we do not want young people to use cannabis, but then let us look at first world models where there is evidence, such as Portugal, who for 10 years have decriminalized all drugs, not just dacha, such as the Netherlands with their quasi-legal system, and Switzerland. We have seen reductions to nearly half of that of the youth in these countries, as we do in America with its multi-billion rand annual budget on fighting dacha.
There we have a map on screen now of where it is legal at the moment. About half the world in different stages. The surprising one, North Korea, it's completely legal for all kinds of use in North Korea. But I wanted to come back to you, Mamazana. You're very passionate about this, and almost to the extent where you get a little bit angry, and that's acceptable. But what do you say in response to what William just told you? Is it not time for us to take a much more open-minded view around the subject?
You know, really, I totally disagree till the end. Because how are you going to control this? Just give me a chance. Because if you cannot control it now, and the people's
But how do we control alcohol? We control it very well at the moment. And once you decriminalize something, it's much easier to control, because at the moment it's out of control because it is available under the table, as it were. If you legalize it in some ways, as they have in America, you can control it a little bit better.
No. You can't say that you are controlling alcohol, because how many people's lives are being ruined by alcohol?
But you can't be a nanny state where you tell people you're not allowed to have a drink, you're not allowed to smoke cannabis, you're not allowed to do this. In the end,
yes,
you are infringing on people's rights to make those decisions for themselves.
No, it's fine, whatever you say, but as an organization, we stand on this, that's saying that as young South Africans, we also want to be CAs one day, we also want to be doctors one day, and I believe that, you know, living a healthy life, abstaining from those drugs, you will get there.
Not everyone has the same dream, and not everybody wants to abstain.
It doesn't matter. That is why I'm here, because I want to tell the young South Africans, just leave it. It won't help you. It won't help you, and it hasn't helped other people. As the CYP of South Africa, we say no to the legalization of dacha. No matter what you study, no matter what you tell me, I say no.
Do you think if you speak to a young South African in this kind of tone, that they would respond positively?
They have responded many times.
William?
I'm going to be frank, Ebius. I think it's absurd that you would close your eyes and ears to the last 100 years of progress made regarding cannabis. I think it's also a case of the blood will be on your hands regarding all those people who get sent to jail. You think that simply throwing people in jail is the solution. We face a fact where there is demand for the product one way or another. In the Western Cape, demand for cannabis amongst the youth has exceeded demand for alcohol. Once again, in a framework of prohibition. I know from personal experience, it was easier for me at 15 years old to go to the local taxi rank and buy a bankie of grass than it was to try and buy a bottle of brandy from the local bottle store. And we have no control. We have zero control in the framework that we have. No checking for IDs, and we also thereby create a situation where a youngster who perhaps does wish to purchase cannabis is now exposed to a situation with a drug dealer where he has the option of heroin, tick, crack, and so on. So I think you cannot plead willful ignorance in this situation. You need to take responsibility for the fact, and we need to realize that we want the same thing. We want to reduce use amongst the youth, but we see that there are more constructive ways to do this. We spend nearly a billion rand every 2 months on arresting just dacha users in South Africa. That means we are arresting the stoner next door rather than the hijacker in the driveway. I think it is a very tainted hand of help that you offer the youth by threatening them with imprisonment. We need to look at realistic and constructive solutions to this problem rather than close our eyes and ears to them.
But you're welcome to come down to our organization when those young people are troubling you.
We will make that visit and we will make it happen, as this is a story that we're going to continue with a discussion until the bill is discussed in Parliament. Thank you for joining us today. The concerned young people of South Africa, Mamazane Mapanga and William Wallace from the lobby group Below the Line. Thank you guys for joining us. A very passionate debate here this morning. All, of course, well, in memory of Mario Oriani Ambrosini, and there are reports that the IFP MP ended his own life. According to the reports, the family released a statement saying the politician decided to end his long battle with cancer at the weekend. Oriani Ambrosini died at his home in Cape Town in the early hours of Saturday morning at the age of 53. He was in the last stages of terminal lung cancer and decided to end his long battle of suffering. Ambrosini said he had rejected chemotherapy as a treatment option, as it would extend his life expectancy by only a few months and would cause severe side effects. In February, he introduced the Medical Innovation Bill to legalize the use of medical marijuana. He also pleaded with President Jacob Zuma to provide laws that gave doctors the power to prescribe alternative treatments. When asked whether Ambrosini took his own life, the family responded with, he decided to end his suffering. They could not provide any further details.